Hey guys, welcome to a new Python series. In this video series, we're going to discuss file handling. So if you're ready, let's get started. So here I am in Visual Studio Code. I have two files, one called names.txt and it has names of all these characters, and another file is called main.py. So what is file handling? Well, file handling is the reading, writing, and modifying of files to and from the disk. So in other words, file handling is the management of files on your computer. Okay, so that's file handling, but what is the purpose of that? Like, why would we use file handling anyway? Well, when we are developing apps and programs in Python, we usually need to store this data somewhere. And we can store this data in either databases or files or even the program itself using variables. But files are a simple and easy way to save data on a disk or on your computer. Okay, so now we understand the purpose of file handling. Let me show you a couple of operations you can use on a file. So here are the 4 operations we can use on a file. There are of course more, but these are the 4 main ones. So R stands for reading data from a file. So this is very useful if you just want to get data from a file, which we'll be using later in this video. We have W, which stands for creating or writing data to a file. So if you just pass in W, and you don't explicitly put any content into the file, you're just going to create a new file if that file doesn't already exist. But if you're putting content into the file, then you're going to overwrite any content that's already in the file. We have A here, which stands for appending data to a file. So you already have a file, and now you're just appending more data to that current file. You're not overwriting anything, which is what W would do. Instead, you're just adding more data to a file. And then we have B, which is binary data. And this means that technically anything that's not text would be used for binary data, like images or stuff like that. You would use B for that. So binary data can go with any of these, and that's what you would use for B. So now that we know the operations we can use, let's just create a file. Now the first way I'm going to show you is technically the improper way. It's a way that you will see sometimes, but it's best that you avoid it, and I try not to use it. So the first way is we first create our variable, right? And now all we have to do to open a file is to type in open, this open keyword, and all this does is it opens a file. So right here you see it's asking for a file or a path. And well, we already have the file right here called names.txt. So we're just going to pass in names.txt and boom. So now we have our file stored in this variable. And to print it to the terminal, and all we're going to do is read from the file. So to do that, all we're going to do is print f.read and boom. So now one thing you have to know if you're going to do it this way, which I prefer not to use, and I recommend that nobody uses it this way, you have to put close. Otherwise, the file is not going to close, and then things can go wrong from there in your program. So now we close the file, and now if we run it, we get all the names. So we got Captain America, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and yada yada yada. But like I said, that is not the best way. Now let me show you the proper way of handling files in Python. So to do that, we first have to type in this with keyword. And what this means is we're just going to be using a context manager to access and to manage, well, the file. So now we're going to do with open, the same way of what we did before. And we're going to do names.txt. And now we're going to do as, and this as means we're just going to be opening this file, and now we are just creating a variable name, and we're going to do F again. And here we go. This is our context manager. Now this is way more useful than this way, and this is for several reasons. The first reason is now that we have used a context manager with this with keyword, now we do not have to explicitly do f.close because the program or Python is going to close the file for us, so we don't have to do it ourselves. And the other benefit of using this way instead of this way is the f variable is going to be only local inside this block. It's never going to be used outside of this block. So let's first just print to the terminal, print f.read, right? And if we run this, and I clear the terminal already, then we get the same names. Now let's try to use this outside of the block just to show you that the file is closed, because once a file is closed, you cannot get any data from it. So if we read, right, then we should get an error. and boom, we get an error right here saying f.read IO operation on closed file. It's saying that the file is closed. So the last thing I want to show you when it comes to reading files from Python is if it's only for reading, right? Then you want to explicitly put R. And R, like I said, means reading data from a file. So if I try to write, we should get an error because right now we are only reading data. We should not be writing data. So if I write and if I clear this, run this, we get an error and saying it is not writable because we explicitly told Python that we are only reading. So we should not be writing if we're only supposed to be reading. So the most we can actually do with this is read. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.